Welcome to the Eminence Legacy Podcast, your ultimate destination for self-help, self-development, and inspirational stories. We are here to guide you on a transformative journey. In each episode, we'll dive into powerful insights, practical tips, and moving source eyes that will inspire and empower you to rise to your eminence. Join us as we unlock the secrets to personal growth, overcome challenges, and build the legacy you've always dreamed of. Get ready to elevate your life and reach new heights with the Eminence Legacy Podcast. Let's rise to our eminence together.
Welcome to the Eminence Legacy Podcast, and welcome to the first episode of the year. This is your host, Alfonso Cadena, and I'm joined here by my co-host,
Jose Luis Cadena, and thank you for joining us.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So, one of the things that we wanted to get started with is about how you are spending your free time, because a lot of time we talk about productivity, right? But what happens in that downtime, And one of the things that as adults we tend to forget is the importance of play and the impact that it has on our psychology, right? So like it's very easy to get caught up on how things are going, And I was just curious about this topic in general, because I always wonder, sometimes you're thinking about what other people are going through or like what is it that they do. We have a lot of other couples that are friends and we wonder, what is it that they do on their free time, so I was looking at this list as to like what people have a tendency of doing. So according to this, one of the hobbies that different Americans have, like they went ahead and ranked them. I found this one in News Journal. This is from 2024, because that's the other thing too, there's like new technologies. So you never know what else is like in development or what's new, like for example, I haven't touched a video game in probably close to like a decade. It just got to a certain point where it was like too many choices for me. So I never really picked up on video gaming, but there's a lot of other stuff up there. I know like in this article in particular, 41% of people like that answered to the survey, they said that it was cooking or baking. You have some experience with that, right?
Yes, I tend to dabble in the kitchen and doing things there.
Yeah, I've seen you experiment with a lot of stuff, man. You come up with some really good stuff. Like it's funny because we all have guests over and it's like, and we'll try like a recipe. And I know about 10 times is something that we learned that we first tasted in your house. So then we would say, and the question always comes, which is strange because I never ask this of people that invite me, but they always tend to ask, where did you get this recipe from? And they're like, we got it from Jose Luis, we gather like around the same group of people, so it's funny because I can tell that that's one of the things that you enjoy, because it's, not everybody just dabbles into like new recipes, there's a certain risk or fear to it, that it might just not come out the way you like it. Not to mention that you're already spending on the ingredients and stuff. So you're hoping and praying that stuff comes out good.
Yeah, it's always a risk.
Right. Yeah. The other one that the answer was 37% said that they like reading, which is pretty good. And one of the things that I've been trying to train myself for this, it's probably something we can talk about in the future, is, like I don't know how you do it, but like, are you able to just like pick up a book and read, or do you have to create a certain environment to get yourself to do it?
I have to be in a quiet place. I cannot read when there's too much noise. If there's too much noise, I'll be rereading the same the same sentence or it's the same paragraph a couple of times. I can't be distracted. I need that time to read. So I need to find a time where it's about just reading.
Yeah, I have the same. I have a different issue in which like I have to find like the right environment. So like let's say I'll pick up a book and I probably won't get back to it like until like like after several days later, sometimes even a week later, because I'm too picky when it comes to that. I'm not able to like just pick up a book and start reading because I'm in a passenger in the car, right? Like I've seen people be able to do that, that they'll carry their book with them, and anytime there's like a moment of like where they're waiting, they're able to pull out a book and just read along. For me, I have to create like the environment for it. Otherwise, it's not something I gravitate to naturally. And spending time with pets was another one with that was actually really high. Yeah, so 35% said that they would spend time with their pets. I personally have a bird, so it's a parrot. And what's different from parrots from other animals is particularly like, let's say your average dog or your cat, is that I have a conure and they're super needy. Like it's like, like they always want to be socializing. They always want to be interacting. And even if they're not hanging out with you, they just want to be like in the same room. Like right now, I have her free in one of the bedrooms. And I think one of the reasons that she's not on me right now is because she probably found something to do. I'm honestly surprised she's not making much noise right now, because the fact that she's hearing my voice, would cause a response where she's gonna want to be with me. But all right, so let's go ahead and get started. So, well, one of the things that we wanted to get started with is about how you are spending your free time, because a lot of time we talk about productivity, right? But what happens in that downtime, And one of the things that as adults we tend to forget is the importance of play and the impact that it has on our psychology, right? So like it's very easy to get caught up on how things are going, And I was just curious about this topic in general, because I always wonder, maybe it's just, sometimes you're just thinking about what other people are going through, or like what is it that they do, we have a lot of other couples that are friends, and we wonder, what is it that they do on their free time, and so I was looking at this list as to like what people have a tendency of doing. So according to this, one of the hobbies that different Americans have, like they went ahead and ranked them. I found this one in News Journal. This is from 2024, because that's the other thing too. There's like new technologies, so you never know what else is like in development or what's new. Like for example, I haven't touched a video game in probably close to like a decade. Like it just got to a certain point where it was like too many choices for me, so I never really picked up on video gaming. But there's a lot of other stuff out there. I know, like in this article in particular, 41% of people like that answered to the survey, they said that it was cooking or baking. You have some experience with that, right?
Yeah, I tend to dabble in the kitchen and doing things there.
Yeah, I've seen you experiment with a lot of stuff, man. You come up with some really good stuff. Like it's funny because we all have guests over, and it's like, and we'll try like a recipe. And 9 out of 10 times is something that we learned that we first tasted in your house. So then we would say, and the question always comes, which is strange because I never ask this of people that invite me, but they always tend to ask, where did you get the recipe from? And they're like, we got it from Jose Luis, we gather like around the same group of people, so it's funny because, you can tell that that's one of the things that you enjoy, because not everybody just dabbles into like new recipes, there's a certain risk or fear to it, that it might just not come out the way you like it. Not to mention that you're already spending on the ingredients and stuff, so you're hoping and praying that stuff comes out good.
Yeah, it's always a risk.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Like the other one that they answered was 37% said that they like reading. Which is really good. Like and one of the things that I've been trying to train myself for this, it's probably something we can talk about in the future, is like to I don't know how you do it, but like, are you able to just like pick up a book and read, or do you have to create a certain environment to get yourself to do it?
I have to be in a quiet place. I cannot read when there's too much noise. If there's too much noise, I'll be rereading the same sentence or it's the same paragraph a couple of times. I can't be distracted. I need that time to read. So I need to find a time where it's about just reading.
Yeah, I have the same. I have a different issue in which like I have to find like the right environment. So like let's say I'll pick up a book, and I probably won't get back to it after several days later, sometimes even a week later, because I'm too picky when it comes to that. I'm not able to like just pick up a book and start reading because I'm in the passenger in the car, right? Like I've seen people be able to do that, that they'll carry their book with them. And anytime there's like a moment of like where they're waiting, they're able to pull out a book and just read along. For me, I have to create like the environment for it. Otherwise, it's not something I gravitate to naturally. Spending time with pets was another one with that was actually really high. Yeah. So 35% said that they would spend time with their pets. I personally have a bird, so it's a parrot. And what's different from parrots from other animals is particularly like, let's say your average dog or your cat, is that I have a conure and they're super needy. They always want to be socializing. They always want to be interacting. And even if they're not hanging out with you, they just want to be like in the same room. Like right now, I have her free in one of the bedrooms. And I think one of the reasons that she's not on me right now is because she probably found something to do. I'm honestly surprised she's not making much noise right now, because the fact that she's hearing my voice would cause a response where she's going to want to be with me. But what I did do, what I've been learning after like doing this podcast for over a year now, is that if I give her like berries, I won't hear from her. So I bribed her with some berries. So like so right now she's like very quiet, but yeah. Yeah. Are your dogs pretty demanding? Cause I know like each species is like super like different.
Well, I have a Rottweiler and a pit bull, and they're both pretty chill. They could play a little bit. Like I take them out for a walk or for them to play, and after a couple of minutes, maybe 30 minutes, they'll be ready just to lay down. And they just exert so much energy that they with a nice mile walk, they'll be probably laying down all day. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're planning your walks, you have to plan it like for your dog. You don't plan it for yourself, right? Because I mean, I know you can go like for long distances. But the way it seems, your dogs ain't got the endurance to make it like a 2-3 miles.
Yeah,
like of a walk.
They'll last, but then they're gonna crash when they get home.
They're also older too, so like I mean, it's like just like people, they age, So like I think also there's probably like a curve eventually where they demand this playtime, and they probably just appreciate more the company.
One of the things that you're bringing up age, and when I was reading, there's actually a book called Play, and it talks about how continuing to play allows you to keep your brain active and you stay younger longer. And it talks about a doctor that retired, and he took up on sculpting, and he started doing like wooden sculpting. And he says that at age 65, he's still really, really sharp, and he still was able to carry himself in a conversation and whatnot. So one thing they also mention is that play is right there next to sleeping. Like in order for you to develop, and in order for your brain to be able to engage more and be more creative and be more active and be more and have the ability to think further, it's related a lot with a correlation with sleep. They talked about a sea creature called a sea squirt, and it talks about that after a certain time, it stops using its brain, so it just eats its own brain, and it just does away with it, and it becomes like a sea zombie. So what it's trying to here portray is like, if you don't get this, if you don't make that time, like let's say you like riding horses or riding bikes or playing board games or doing the crossword puzzles and keeping your mind active and play something that's fun, something that and remember that the play needs to be, you can't schedule this, because if you schedule it, it becomes a chore, it becomes work, and it's no longer fun. It has to be something very spontaneous, something that you just go along and do on your own time. But it actually relates a lot of things with sleep, and it has a correlation with your brain development.
Yeah, and it's sorry, I'm still caught up on the sea squirt. Like I always hear about some new creature that I've never heard of. This is one of them, and I looked it up. It's like crazy stuff down there, man. But yeah, like I know, like I had a relative recently that like was in that had like about 4 different procedures right in the hospital, and but she was determined that she wanted to like get out of bed, be active and start moving and stuff like that. And what the nurses were saying is like, that's actually the best thing you can do, because most of the patients, they go through like, it could be like a traumatic like surgery, right? That puts a lot of stress and is very, very hard on the body. But, if you give in to like, to just not engaging yourself, like it's committing to something, you could be delaying recovery or even just like declining in health after that. So yeah, like, I mean, I really do think that there's something to it, man. I know, like, I don't know what like the current science is on Alzheimer's, but like also, like, I mean, that's one thing that I like to think that, like, if we keep our minds active, and exercise is like a muscle, it's something that can be delayed. Recently watched that movie Reagan, and man, it's a terrible way to, to go. Like, and that man had a very engaged mind. It's like, I mean, he was a brilliant guy, to be able to, to make it to the office that he did, and even he got to see it. And then I'm reminded by that also because you mentioned the horses, so I mean, like, I mean, nobody's exempt, it's like, I mean, you could be like the world's best athlete, and still have a cardiac arrest. I mean, there's just no guarantees, all we can do is like, I mean, and live, enjoy the moment, use the time wisely that we have, and, and be able to increase the odds in our favor, And one of the things that, like, up to this point, like, I'm going to this top 10 list. I mean, it's like when all of this has to do with like engaging your mind. I mean, like when it comes to, reading, like even video games. I heard Elon Musk talking about recently that it's something that helps them too, right? He was mentioning that like it also gives them it sends them a signal as to whether or not his mind is fully there. Because if he can perform really well in a game, then he knows that his mind is like, in peak capacity. And that's not something I can relate to because, like I said, I don't normally play them, but I'm also, it's one of those things too that, like, I don't know if it's based on research or not, but they'll say that the best surgeons are the ones that play a lot of video games too. So it's one of those things that, like, I mean, a lot of these hobbies you can pick up on, and they tend to be compounding. That because you learn a certain skill, it becomes, it adds to, future things that you can improve on as well. Traveling was also one that people like listed here. I mean, I enjoy traveling, right? I mean, who's gonna argue against that? It's just not something that, like, that is always on the budget or time for in the schedule. Like, I mean, even if you're gonna make a day trip for like 150 miles, I mean, you're not just planning like 150 miles. You're planning, 300 miles because you still need to drive back. So like that's one of the reasons too that, like, I mean, it's a good one to have, but that's one that you cannot be spontaneous versus like everything else you could be spontaneous and do it like last minute. With traveling, I do find that a little bit more tougher because of the time constraints, and sometimes it's going to take a little bit more off the budget. I personally, like, I mean, I'm part of a birding group, and like one of the things that I was learning recently was that 90% of the land in Texas is privately owned, which means that all of that is land that you're not going to see, right? So through the birding group, what's really cool is that they have, they know a lot of the local ranchers, so they'll let us into their land. And it's been a really good way to like appreciate like the state and like the nature like around us, that is already overlooked. So that has been it always feels like a little traveling vacation, sometimes it's like 40-50 miles out of town, to go to get to these ranches. And the terrain changes a lot, like in just that short drive. But I mean, it's a good one,
I do think that if you're gonna add travel, there needs to be an activity involved. I mean, because there's from travel to travel, and if you want to incorporate it with play, there needs to be an activity involved within the travel. I don't think we could apply travel to everything, because if you're gonna visit family and just sit around the house, it's not. Wouldn't consider it play. So I would say that we need to be purposeful and get out there and explore. Now, one of the things that you mentioned about when you talked about time, the other thing that comes with play is that you're free, the freedom of time, because you lose track of time. If you're doing something fun, something you enjoy, that by the time you look at it, oh wow, we've been here for 2 or 3 hours. I mean, that one time that we were playing board games at your place, and I literally lost time, because I had that little episode. But what I'm trying to say is it's one of those things that you enjoy something, you savor the moment, and you're able to, I guess, disengage from all the stress and all the chaos that might be happening around you.
Yeah, like, and it's one of the ideas that I was listening to, like a health and wellness podcast. I can't remember which one it was, but one of the things that he was talking about was that he introduced his family to going on walks after like their Thanksgiving dinner, or during like Christmas and stuff like that. Now, depending on the part of the country you're in, that changes a lot. Because I mean, right now we're in the southern states, right? So like it's warm right now, although we're expecting like freeze next week. If you're somewhere like, for example, like in the east that they're having like the winter storm, I mean, that's probably not an option, but I think the spirit of it was really good, where you introduce your family, to like a new activity that they weren't necessarily familiar with before. And you're always going to have somebody that doesn't participate. So, I mean, all you really need to do is like, I mean, just find the ones that are willing to try it. And, and in this case, so the example was introducing the families for going for a walk, or guiding the family through like a small, like workout session, so that, to get the family moving, and get them to like, I mean, do something good for themselves. In the end, everybody feels better afterwards, right? So yeah, that's definitely something that you could, that one of the things that we've talked about before is being a leader. And I mean, that doesn't necessarily just mean like in a workplace environment, right? It also means like within your family. If other people are not known for being as exciting or adventurous, then maybe you need to, take the lead and introduce them to something new, right? So go ahead.
Another thing that you're talking about all this, play also diminishes self-consciousness, the need to be proper, the need to be professional, the need to be, I guess, very uptight. So a lot of times when you introduce like people to something new, at the beginning, they might be a little bit uptight about it or not very willing to participate. But I think as I guess the energy starts going through the different people and you see them having fun or whatnot, they might engage. And like I said, it decreases your self-consciousness of looking like a fool, maybe at times that you're afraid that you're not going to look good, like acting silly or playing charades or whatever. But I think that it play allows us to diminish that self-consciousness as well.
Yeah, like, and I'm actually going to hop over to this one, right? Because like, I mean, I know I mentioned it in the show before. So like, I mean, I'm in, like, I have a huge collection of like of board games, and I've introduced so many people to it. And one of the things that I like doing for fun is looking up like the, like older games, like, as much as I love modern designs, but like, but looking into the history of it as well, right? A lot of times you look at these historical figures, like the people, like, let's say you look at the Romans, you look at the, like the early fathers of the country, like, and you think of them that were like all business and no play, right? But I mean, we get it all wrong. And, because, one of the things I like looking at is like, for example, like there's this piece that you could look up, it's a board game from Egypt that's like 5,500 years old. It's like, I mean, you're talking about the people that built the pyramids, or whoever, or how, or whatever methods that they use, whatever. I mean, these people that had left like their mark in history, I mean, also made time for play, so they made the world's largest wonders, and, but yet they still found that time where they can be together with their family and, and be themselves and vulnerable, where it wasn't like all business the entire time. Right. And Hadrian's Wall, like, for example, like along it, like, I think they found somewhere like around, I think it was easily like over 500 different, like, 500 different like board games just like laying around there. I don't know if it was like the same copy or what, because I just read this from like from an article. But I mean, what's interesting about this is that like we don't even know how to play these things because there was no written document describing how you play it. Nonetheless, I mean, I can't help but to think that like, I mean, when you're in those moments of play, you get to see that person for who they really are. Like at their most basic level when they drop all their defenses. Which is why we create connections so like at a much more deeper level. And this is probably true, when it comes to like, like why do we plan dates the way that we do, where we're trying to meet like a significant other? You plan a fun activity where it's like, I mean, or both people could be engaged, they can be vulnerable and speak to one another, and be their true authentic selves, laugh at whatever they find funny, and just be that way, right? Recently, I think a couple of weeks ago, I told my wife, I was like, I've always been curious about like cribbage. You always see like a board I'm not sure people have seen it. It's like it's this board that has about 121 holes, or sometimes it has 60, and it's like it's really small. It's about maybe like about 12 inches in length, and maybe like about four inches wide. And you can find different boards for it. Oh, but this thing was made all the way back in the 16th century, and it became really popular worldwide because the British Navy needed a type of entertainment while they were navigating the seas. Like the British Empire, they spread all over the world. So like these naval men, they had a lot of free time, and they had to spend it together with each other. So they carried their board with them and a deck of cards, and they would play out in open sea. They would land on the shore, play some more, introduce it to the locals. And now, fast forward to today, people still play it. You can get a board on Amazon for $20. That's what I did to learn it. But I look at that thing and I'm like, man, it's like it's a reminder of like, that we're all just humans, like in the end of the day, right? And I mean, and it's just great to see, people like in that level. And I'm sure you could see, like, I mean, a lot of these qualities, like in all these other ones, like arts and crafts. I mean, I did, like we've been on cruises before too, like, and we did a lot of cool stuff, with the excursions and everything. One of the simple ones was like, the ship had like a class, like a painting class, and we went. So we got to meet some of the other travelers while we were there, and that was just memorable in itself. I mean, again, this is like one of the cool things about all of these things that people listed as being their top 10 things that they do for recreation is stuff that, like, I mean, just brings people together. So yeah.
I think, I think another thing like play brings is you're able to improvise, and it also allows you to find that desire to continue, to be able to find new ways of finding that time to engage and play. And I think overall, as we're learning about this, I think it's very important that, because as we get older, we think it's all work, and I know we hear songs that say work hard, play hard, but how many of us are really playing hard? Like a lot of us are not. A lot of us are stressing, are dealing with our day-to-day, are dealing with our problems and whatnot, and you don't make time to go to the gym. You're not catching the proper sleep. You're not finding that time to recreate and play. And at the end of the day, we're just shortening our own lives. That's what it comes down to. And yes, a lot of times you're going to see physical changes in your appearance, but the sharpness of your brain doesn't have to diminish just because you're looking a little bit older with time. The sharpness of your brain, we should be able to continue it to allow it to grow, to learn new things, to develop, and to be able to have a conversation with people with us being able to hold our thoughts a little bit longer.
Yeah, definitely, and it's at this current age, I mean, one of the things too, like again, this article was from 2024, right? I went through like the top 10 things, so like that people said was top 10 things that people do for their pastime. None of these involve like their their phones per se. You know what I mean? Like it's it's an opportunity to set it down, and just do something. Now it's like, I mean, like I think video games is an exception, but even then you interact with some people. I mean, again, that's just so foreign to me. So but I'm talking particularly about everything else. Like, I mean, it's it's an opportunity to, again, set down the phone. And you can go down that rabbit hole too. Is like, I mean, how many negative effects, do we get from spending too much time on social media? Whether it's being constantly bombarded by, whether it be bad news, or just like, I mean, comparing yourself to other people. It's like, nah, just, I mean, set it down, work on yourself, and it's like, and this is one of the easiest things that you can work on. It's like, I mean, we often talk about, like how to be more effective, how to be more efficient on your time, how to work on your social skills. It's like, I mean, this is as basic as you can get. It's like, I mean, we're recording this on a Friday, whenever you listen to this, there's a weekend or there's a day off that's coming up, or there's a vacation that you set up. Maybe you have maybe you have plans to like just sleep in, but perhaps maybe you should just give it a shot, and just try something fun to do, I know, like, there's something to what you said about the spontaneity, but when you're trying this for the first time, I think there is a fear of like, of trying it for the first time. But I mean, just look around, and see what see what interests you, and let's start something new. But yeah, so the last two that I see listed on here is the socializing, pretty straightforward, and the last one is like, I mean, anything like health related. I mean, it's, and that's the other thing too. Like a lot of people think that like back in the day when the marketing for fitness was about, oh, you need to sweat more, you need to have burn more calories. It's like, no, not at all. You just, like riding a bike can be very enjoyable. Going for a walk, I mean, it's like you get so many benefits from it and it's so enjoyable. So it doesn't always have to be like something that you dread. It's like, I mean, there's something to high intensity, but there's also this thing as like moderate to brisk activities.
Yeah, we do remember that life's too short to take everything too seriously, and I guess embrace play as a virtual part of our life, our well-being. I mean, enjoy more, laugh, explore more, enjoy each other. Like we're not just living. We want to try to thrive and be able to move on. And the hardest thing is sometimes that we get so caught up in life, and we need to find a way to find those outlets to be able to stay healthy.
That's right. And that concludes this week's episode. Don't forget to go to eminencelegacyllive.com where you can find a blog, you can schedule coaching sessions, and don't forget to go to our Patreon page where you can go ahead and make a donation so that we can continue to make programming like this one.
Thank you for joining us, and let's continue to rise to our eminence. And remember, till next time, stay curious and stay healthy and keep playing.
Right.